Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference Keynote 2025. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by MacPaw, the makers of Clean My Mac, your ultimate solution for Mac control and care. Try Clean My Mac for 7 days free, then use the code MacVoices20 for 20% off at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. That's clnmy.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joiner. Folks, it's MacVoices Live. It's Tuesday night, a little bit after 8 p.m. tonight. We had a little trouble getting everything in place where it's supposed to be. We are live on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV, and we do this every Tuesday night. So mark your calendars and get here next week, just in case you're hearing this in the feeds. If you're hearing us live, then you are already here, and we're glad to see it. And we have a number of people in the chat room already. More will undoubtedly join. We're going to dive in tonight to Apple's WWDC 2025 keynote. A lot to say, and we're going to try to keep things moving because, first of all, we have a nice large live panel, which I love that, but we also have a few panel members who have early outs tonight because they have other commitments, which I completely understand. So we're going to try to roll a little bit and see what happens. Let's go around the room first and find out who's here. And then I've got one other thing to talk about before we start the keynote analysis. Dave Ginsbug is in the top left of my screen. Dave, good to see you, as always.
Great to see you. I'm glad we're here tonight. There's a lot to talk about.
There is. In the top right of my screen, and I think Britt and Dave must have coordinated because they're both wearing the same color shirts, or at least partially. Brittany Smith is here. Britt, great to have you. I'm so glad you were able to make it at least for a little while.
Thanks for having me.
Marty Jencius is here as he usually is, and that always makes me happy. Marty, good to see you.
It's good to be here. And I'm excited to talk about the topic tonight. This is like the first one where I've really had to dive in deep, and I've been enjoying it for the last 24 hours.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Good. Making a return visit, a surprise return visit, because he didn't tell anybody. Ben Roethig has joined us. Ben, it's good to have you.
It's good to be here and have a rare Tuesday off.
Keep it up. Keep it up. Don't these people that employ you know what's important?
Yeah, making themselves money.
Okay, fair point.
They need to realign their priorities.
That the voice you just heard, in case you are listening to the audio, was Mr. Jeff Gamet. Jeff, it's great to have you.
Chuck, it's always a treat to get to be here, and I cannot wait for you to regale us with all of your wit and wisdom surrounding the keynote event. So no pressure.
You're going to be sorely disappointed. Last but absolutely not least, with a big green background this time, Mr. Eric Bolden. Eric, it's good to have you.
Hello. I thought tonight I'd hang out in a weeping peach tree, just to be different.
A weeping peach tree. Okay.
Yep. I don't know why it's crying, but it's here.
I think that's in Marty's department.
Bella's going to survive in Wisconsin?
Yeah.
And
out of all of the peach trees I have, this one actually produces peaches. And I thought it was an ornamental. It produces peaches every single year.
Wow, that's cool.
I have my fingers crossed on the other peach tree.
Well, listen, before we get started tonight, I think and I'm very serious about this, I think it's only appropriate that we at least acknowledge the passing of Bill Atkinson, one of the original Macintosh team members, and someone who contributed so much to macOS and to subsequent Apple efforts. It's a real loss, and I don't think there's much of anything I could say that would do justice to Bill's contributions. I will tell you that I did have the very good fortune to interview him back, believe it or not, on MacVoices number 1019. That'll tell you how far back it goes. And I will have a link in the show notes. It was at Macworld Conference and Expo where Bill had introduced an application that allowed you to order prints of some of his photos and artwork. But at the same time, he was carrying around what basically amounted to a piece of wood, talking up the concept of the iPad, because the iPad was not out yet, but how much he loved it. And for those of you who don't know, when Bill left Apple, he went to another company, General Magic, who had visions of trying to create what the iPad later became. And frankly, at least from everything I've read, it was just too early. The vision was too early for the technology. So go back and take a look at it. It's a little frightening as to how young I look, and my hair was a different color, but it's a good interview, and it just, I think what comes through for me in rewatching it again is just the enthusiasm of the man about the technology. And so, Bill, thank you for everything you've given to us. We're going to miss you.
Chuck,
with that,
I have to point out,
please.
I just went to look at the video. Are you 12 when you did this?
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, well, that was 2010.
Yeah.
Did we all really look that young back in 2010?
Apparently so.
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
Look what's
Carry
happened
on
to
with
us
your show,
since. Yes.
Mr. 12-year-old.
Yep.
wow, I'm still in my 20s.
You were a pup.
Yeah, you were definitely a pup. So let's just dive in. I have a whole lot of notes, but I don't want to hear what I have to say because I know what I have to say. I want to jump in and where you all want to jump in. And I'm gonna give priority to, let's see, Jeff, Dave, and Britt, because they are the ones with the hard outs tonight. Britt, how about if we start with you? Start us off with something that you found exciting or compelling from the keynote.
Wait, see, I didn't take notes because I was in jury duty. I was hoping somebody else would go first. I thought the iPad stuff looks exciting. I actually don't know how much of it I will use because I have use it as a tablet primary usage for my iPad, but it still was really exciting. I am hopeful for Spotlight changes, but I am not holding my breath because I feel like those are things that have been announced a lot, and I'm not, years ago when it was announced, I was not able successfully to say, hey, find me this document that was modified in this time range. I didn't always work. So I'm hoping that this time it does, but we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, that's fair. Pre-show, though, you said that you felt like the iPad beta was the most compelling of the bunch for you to install.
It has the most changes.
Okay, I was going because your comments and that earlier statement seemed to be just a little bit contradictory.
Well, I think it's exciting and fun because it's very different. But if I'm being realistic, we buy things sometimes or install things because of what we could do. But I think if I'm being honest with myself, I don't know how much I'll use them because, like, if I'm editing shortcuts, I primarily got shortcuts open with a slide over. Or if I'm taking notes on a client thing, I'm just taking notes in GoodNotes. I don't use the multitasking currently as often as I might. So I'm not sure how much of those features I will actually use. But I still want to go play with it. Just because it doesn't make it into my real workflow doesn't mean I don't want to go play with it.
The other thing, though, I find interesting about your comments is that Apple made a very specific point of saying that if this is how you use the iPad, sort of like Brittany's describing, you'll still be able to do it. It will still potentially be a one application device without forcing you to jump through a bunch of hoops to get there.
Yeah. In fact, when you actually first start up iPadOS 26, it gives you an option to have it work exactly how it does now with no changes.
That's interesting. Which obviously means Ben has installed the beta.
Yes.
Foolhardy.
On my mom's iPad.
Always have a sacrificial iPad.
Wow.
Yep. Wow. Okay. Dave, how about you? Was the iPad the thing that really punched your button, or were there other things?
iPad, Vision Pro. I think the Vision Pro brought over some great features, including the much easier ways of sharing the device. There were some enterprise upgrades like the team visions, a team setting up for Vision Pros, being able to collaborate with that. The liquid glass, I think, is a pretty nifty feature. I've already been starting to play with it a little bit. I have it on an iPhone here, and as well as on the iPad. So, but I'm really loving the consistency. Looking, I've looked at all the OSs. I've got it on every single one. The only thing I don't have it is a watch, but I'm seeing some nice consistencies across the board, and that's what Apple intended. Why they changed the numbers to all 26, and we have a consistency across the board here. So that in itself I thought was pretty cool. There's so many other features I could jump up, but we could bring them up as we go here. But I think those are some of the real big things that stood out for me.
Okay. Mr. Gamet, Mr. 15 pages of notes Gamet.
No kidding. Just seriously, 15 pages in here. I was scribbling frantically. Okay, so what stood out to me was the whole going for a unified interface across all devices, which does make sense. The fact that Apple never mentioned HomeKit once, I found that very interesting. But the thing that I'm most excited about is iPadOS. My iPad Pro is a production machine, and when I installed the beta on my Mini yesterday, because always have a sacrificial device, never put betas on production machines, because it will bite you. Except for Ben, because Ben, he can do anything and it's just fine.
No, I will say flat out, I am an idiot. Don't do this.
There you go. Out of the mouths of babes. Anyhow, I feel like this is the first time Apple is giving us an iPad operating system that makes the device an actual useful device. Now, granted, we've been able to do a lot with iPads, but this is the first year where it's like, okay, you've got this device. Let's give you what you need so you can legit use it as a business productivity device. It's not just an accessory for your Mac. And I find that super exciting. So much so that depending on how everything plays out with the betas, I could see in the future when I need to get a new iPad, decide I want to replace my Mac, that I get a Mac Mini that lives on my desk and my portable computer is just an iPad.
Okay.
That's a good possibility.
Eric.
There was so much.
Yeah.
I don't even know what I would pick. So I had a long list of complaints. Well, not complaints. A long list of things that I really wished would happen with the Vision Pro, and I think 90% of them, they just made all the changes. I've been resisting running betas because, well, I'm really using my Vision Pro and I could not resist, so I had to try it. And so far, I'm happy with all the changes. I don't know if I can even name any one thing. Just collectively, they did everything I wanted them to do.
Okay, I want to come back to that, Eric. So remind me if I don't get there. Ben?
Look, it's not been the best half of the year for Apple. That said, this was a 10 out of 10. Every platform got usable, practical features that Apple can deliver on. They made the iPad what might be now their actual best platform. Liquid Glass is refreshing, but unlike iOS 7, they did it in a way that still keeps usability on the phone. It's like they took every practical note users had given them and went like check, 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 check.
Okay. Marty?
So much that, but overall, here's the thing that I think was a big piece for me. Everybody talked about what are they going to talk about in terms of Apple Intelligence? Are they going to drop their head and not say anything about it? What are they going to promise? What's going to happen? They started out with it.
Yeah.
And they were real direct in integrating it into everything they spoke about. So they weren't running scared on this. Now, you can argue whether or not and people have argued, it should be further along. It should be doing all the things that these other things can do. They just kind of put it out there and said, it's there. This is how it's being integrated. And most of all, to the developers, talked about APIs that could be fitting in with all these different platforms to work with the platforms. I've got a few things that I'll start with Vision Pro before Eric gets to it. The idea that you can now place things in your world in Apple Vision Pro. So I can put apps up in a particular space, and when I shut the device off and turn it back on, those apps are still up in that space. That's a big deal because it used to be, here's my workflow. I've got it spread around the room. I shut it off, and then I spend 5 minutes once I start it up, putting my workflow all around the room again like I had it yesterday. So for me, that's a big thing. The other thing, they didn't mention it, but it showed up on their bento box card. Folders. We have they have redone the file manager, the app management system on it. So now I don't have 10 pages of apps. I have folders with apps that do similar things in them, and I can create those folders and drop those apps in. Just as tedious as it is on an iPhone when you're trying to do that, but at least it's there. And at least I've got better management of the apps I add in. I'll stop there. There's other things. Ben, just one last thing, Preview app. The Preview app is now, wow. And I was like excited that it was on the iPad. And then I saw Ben make a post and said, hey, it's in iOS too.
Yeah, it sure is.
Because that's my go-to on the Mac all the time. And now I've got parallels on the other devices that I use.
Today's Mac Voices is supported by Clean My Mac, your ultimate solution for Mac control and care. Try Clean My Mac for 7 days free, then use the code MacVoices20 for 20% off at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. Want to save time and avoid Mac downtime? Then you need Clean My Mac, your Mac's built-in insurance policy. Clean My Mac from MacPaw helps you steer clear of the slowdowns, surprise crashes, and costly service calls that can completely wreck your workflow. It's been trusted since 2008, and the latest version is Apple notarized and smarter than ever. Think of it as your Mac's personal technician. The Smart Care dashboard helps you optimize performance on the spot, no guesswork, no wasted time. Free up space by cleaning out system junk, cache, and duplicate files with just a few clicks. Updates install faster, apps launch quicker, and you stay productive. Clean My Mac's Moonlock anti-malware engine protects your Mac from threats that could lead to lost data, or even worse, a repair bill. Or maybe that's not worse, I'm not sure. Anyway, the Assistant and Menu app give you quick fixes for overheating, battery drain, and more before those issues cost you real downtime. It's no wonder that Clean My Mac made the Mac App Store's list of 25 amazing apps for 2025. It pays for itself by keeping your Mac running like new. Try Clean My Mac free for 7 days and use the code MacVoices20 to save 20% at cleanmy.com/MacVoices. That's CLNMY.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Clean My Mac for supporting Mac Voices.
So Marty, calling out preview. I'm glad you did, because someone needed to call it out. Preview is an undervalued superhero app.
Yeah.
It does so much. It is crazy powerful, and it's just hidden under this thing that people launch because they got a PDF or a JPEG and they just want to see it. But it is a crazy powerful app, and I'm so happy to see it on the iPad.
Yeah, my only wish for that is if there was a way to basically transfer all the PDFs I have in books over to preview.
Oh, well, I bet you can do a shortcut that takes stuff out of books and moves it into folders in the Files app so that it's accessible in preview.
But I mean, we have a couple months for stuff to work it out. Yeah.
What we have been is a couple months for someone to figure that out, so you can just grab their shortcut.
Exactly.
Brittany, she'll be our shortcut queen.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to zoom out to more of a 30,000 foot level and recognize Eric and Ben's comments, because Ben, I'm with you. I felt like this was a really solid keynote, and because there were a couple of things that you might consider sort of flashy, but I just kept looking at the features being announced on all platforms, and it's like, yeah, I'll use that, or I think I can use that, or that solves a problem for me. And so, I did have a chance to listen to some other analysis of the keynote, and it was less than enthusiastic. Okay, so we didn't have a big tentpole feature or new hardware or anything that was really whiz bang, but I thought it was great. One thing though, the whole Apple Intelligence, I feel like we need to pull back a little bit and recognize what Marty has said on this show a number of times, is that Apple has been working on, call it AI, call it large language model, whatever, with one hand tied behind its back because of the privacy issues. And then Apple drew a lot of fire for ChatGPT. It's like, oh, well, they're having to reach out for help. I'm not sure I see it that way. I've listening today, it occurred to me that I have the option of sending something to ChatGPT, and if I'm informed at all, and if you listen to MacVoices, you should be informed, and if you listen to a bunch of other shows, you should be informed that you're giving away personal information. So Apple has given us the best of both worlds. If what they have built in right now can't do it, then it can't do it. But if you want to go out and share information or release some of that information by using ChatGPT, it's quasi-integrated. And so I felt really good about that decision and about the fact that I'm prompted, because now I'm recognizing that, yes, I'm stepping outside of Apple's ecosystem, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen or where that information could go. So that really struck me, and I don't quite know why, because there was no specific comment made or whatever. It just was sort of the overall, the number of times that unashamedly ChatGPT was brought up. It's like, yeah, this is what you have the option to do. And I just felt like that was a big deal. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with ChatGPT and image playgrounds. Well, Apple realized their LLM just wasn't good enough for the task, so they found a way to use ChatGPT's better one in round 2.
Yes. And I heard one complaint today saying, image playground is terrible. It's just, merging emojis and all. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But we're back to the whole question of Apple not just reaching out and taking somebody's data to train their model on. And so I just came away with a really good feeling about Apple Intelligence, not just what we all know of as ChatGPT, but also their approach to it. And I'm somebody said it, how the little integrations of things, they mentioned Apple Intelligence driving this or Apple Intelligence driving that. And unfortunately, I didn't take Jeff's 15 pages of notes, so I can't give you examples. Go back and watch the keynote. But there were plenty of times that they said this Apple Intelligence is driving this or it's driving that. So that was one of my big takeaways, that I feel like Apple is not nearly as far behind as a lot of people, and especially Wall Street, seems to feel like it is. So, my 2 cents. Liquid glass. Let's talk liquid glass. Is this a big deal? Is it a little deal? This is the first time we've seen, as they sort of implied, this is the first time since there's been a major redesign of the interface since iOS 7, which I believe was a Johnny Ive thing. And so now we now are in the post Johnny Ive era in the truest sense. I kind of like it from what I could see. I reserve the right to judge, but for right now, I liked a lot of what I saw.
Yeah.
There is an important thing about liquid glass. Don't use it to carry your wine around.
I mean, if we're going to be technical here, all liquid is glass, or all glass is liquid.
At some point, yeah. What a bunch of geeks.
Yeah, it's technically what is called a super cooled liquid. Since it flows.
Okay. No, I'm not sure this is going to make anybody change to the Mac or anything like that, but I felt like it was a nice recognition of maybe some new capabilities that, and certainly I would guess that because now there's only one Intel Mac, or 1 or 2 Intel Macs, I guess, are going to be now supported. Just one, the MacBook Pro 2019. Yeah.
I happen to have.
Yeah, I have one too. But so I have to wonder if some of the interface niceties are being driven by the power of the M chips. But even if they are, it's still, they feel like they are decent, usable enhancements and not just a fresh coat of paint. Now, you'll argue with me, please.
No, in Safari, I like the fact that now the liquid glass is giving a translucent look of the bar, because before on Safari it was all covered up and you had the white, and it wouldn't move anywhere. When you moved it up, it clears up when you're scrolling up on the screen. When you bring it back down, it comes back. So that's just another example of some of the things it does. That same thing with Apple Music. I mean, you open up the music app and the song is down there at the bottom, and you're scrolling it, and in fact, Apple Music will even bring up the liquid glass buttons, including the library, radio, and home, and it's all there. You don't have to go to another menu to get to it, and that's what's I think was super exciting about liquid glass when it comes to that. And you're seeing this consistency across a lot of apps. So even with Notes has got some pretty good improvements that I've noticed as well. And Messages, we haven't even talked about Messages yet. But just going into each one of these, it's got just such a nice flow and easy to navigate compared to iOS 18 and prior.
Mm-hmm.
Marty?
Yeah, with liquid glass, I'm a little concerned about the accessibility in terms of visual. At the same time, the first thing they show is like a glob of glass going across text and getting a magnification on the text. And my wife has visual issues, and we've gone to the Eye Center in Cleveland, and she's bought these big hunks of glass that she can scroll over text to enlarge the text. And I thought, well, this could be good for accessibility. It could be bad for accessibility, but I don't think we've gotten the full rollout of how this could be tied in to aid in terms of accessibility around visual stuff.
Okay. Yeah, Marty, I agree. That's what I meant by functionality as opposed to just window dressing. Before we go on, I want to welcome Brian Flanigan-Arthurs. He's joined the panel. Brian, good to have you. I know you had another commitment earlier, so I'm glad that you made it for the back part of the conversation here.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, we'll let you catch up in a minute. Jeff.
Marty brought up accessibility, and I'm glad because that's something that I wanted to address. Before I hop into that, I want to call out Dave for hitting on the important thing in the liquid glass interface, which is that a lot of controls have been consolidated in ways that make them easier to access. Mm-hmm. That's way more important than the eye candy parts of the interface changes. Now, in the accessibility, as soon as I saw the cool, glassy, frosty, transparent buttons floating up on displays, I was like, well, that's very pretty. But man, if you have certain vision issues, good luck reading any of it. And it turns out that Apple did already think about that, and there's a way to go in and disable that higher level of transparency. It is beta right now, and I tried doing that, and I found that it's really janky what happens. But I'm sure by the time they roll it out as a public release, it'll be fine. But right now, some transparency things for me just turn into like dark gray or dark black blocks, so you can't even read what's supposed to be there. And when you re-enable the full transparency, then it's back to normal again.
Is this something other than the reduced transparency setting that's always been in accessibility?
Well, there's another setting, which of course now I can't find, but yeah, if you use reduced transparency in the beta,
it's
at
ugly,
least on my iPad,
but it does work.
It's really messed up. But
okay.
Yeah, so there are options to improve readability if you have vision issues that make the transparent buttons difficult to read.
Or attention issues. I'm suspicious that enough people have brought it up that the transparency will be reduced for all users, but I could be wrong about that.
Well, at least a setting that would
Maybe,
be ideal.
But the people that are impacted are not always consciously aware that they're impacted by it. Mm. Now, Apple may not give a crap about that. They don't in other areas, or are not aware of it. But yeah, it's hard to read. Like the notifications are.
I put that into our trusty ChatGPT and just to get a bit of a summary of this. And two of the notable concerns they say is the visual complexity and the ambient light dependence. Those are two things that it could be an accessibility challenge on both of those, because liquid glass is dependent on that when it comes to that dependency on the ambient light is probably one of the things, especially for visual impaired.
Eric?
If you go into accessibility and pick the increased contrast slider, turn that on, that gets rid of a lot of the transparency. Better. Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.